Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
What is happening, Startup Nation? We're back on another Podcast Friday. I'm one of your co-hosts, Katie Lemieux.
And I'm Dr. Kate Campbell. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm sure you're listening maybe on a Friday, or who knows, could be 24/7 somewhere around the world.
That's really super exciting. Anyways, we're really amped up about our podcast guest today, Alexandra Neto. She is the president and creative director of Otena Concepts, and you'll learn a little bit about how she created her name shortly. So before we get started, hey, we don't want to wait till the end to give you guys our giveaways and free gifts because we think they're important and we want to give that to you. So one really important thing, don't forget to join our exclusive Insider Facebook group, the Private Practice Startup, because it's Insider. That's why I'm whispering. Anyway, just make sure you request to be a part of the group. There you'll be able to interact with colleagues, share resources, collaborate, lots of good stuff, lots of good information. The other bonus we have for you is the A to Z cheat sheet, Essentials for Building a Private Practice. Super simple. Text the word essentials, all caps, to 44222, and you'll get a copy of that. And we're passionate about being a resource for you guys, so make sure you check out some of our favorite resources that we use and love on our resources page on the privatepracticestartup.com.
Yes, so I actually met Alex, probably about 8 years ago or so through some friends. Yes, it's been a while. And we connected. We're actually birthday twins, which is so interesting. So we're both Leos, born on the same day, and really hit it off.
Does that mean anything for me? Anything I should be aware of? With two Leos on either side?
Two Leos, you better watch out, girl.
What's that mean?
I don't know. You have to find out.
Oh, okay.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Okay.
Yes. Lots of good energy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so actually, Alex designed my private practice logo, probably 5.5 years ago, at least. Something like that. And my experience working with her was amazing. It was really wonderful. And I've referred her to numerous therapists over the years.
Thank you so much for that.
Of course. Yeah. And I've always gotten great feedback from her. So she's the owner of Otena Concepts. And she's going to be talking today about 3 key factors when designing your private practice logo. So let me tell you a little bit about Alexandra before we get started here and get into the valuable information that she's going to share. Alex epitomizes integrity, energy, hard work, and passion into every design project she executes. Her love of art and design was evident at an early age and flourished through an international upbringing, spending time in Peru and Canada before finally settling in sunny South Florida in Fort Lauderdale, where we all reside. Founded in 2011, Alex branded Otena Concepts as a boutique design studio tailored specifically to unique customers' needs. Today, her and her team of graphic designers, web experts, and marketing strategy professionals strive to create authentic connections between clients.
Ding-a-ling-ling, the word. So Alex is looking at us like, what?
We're crazy.
The word authentic comes up in almost every one of our podcasts.
Kidding.
So we ring the bell now.
Okay.
Yes.
That's funny.
So she creates an authentic connection between clients and their key target markets, which you all know we're all about that. She ensures that each and every deliverable presents a good, clean, memorable design on time and on budget. The business model continues to work, and the company has steadily grown over the past 5 years. And Otena Concepts' current client portfolio expands diverse market segments, including 50 Eggs Restaurants, Citrix Software Solutions, and the Atlantis Resort and Casino, and so forth and so on. So when not brainstorming for her next creative project, Alex enjoys travel, paddleboarding, cooking, attending local events in South Florida. A few accolades. Her recent accolade was that she was one of Fort Lauderdale's finest in 2013 and one of 100 outstanding women of Broward County in 2015.
Nice.
So a little fun fact here, one final one before we get started, is that when she was deciding to call her company or name her company, a friend of hers suggested that she could model it after Oprah, who did Harpo Productions. So she used her last name backwards, and so Otena Neto Concepts was born. And she really loves when people figure that out on their own.
I didn't figure it out on the own. I looked at the notes. I was like, oh, that's cool.
No, it's cute when people figure it out on their own. They freak out.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So before we get started on your topic, which is really exciting, and you're really going to give it to us from the perspective of a designer. Mm-hmm. So just like when therapists, when people really don't know our work and the value of our work, and just hearing you talk, you're really going to share everything that you guys go through, which I think is really important. So, but before we get into the topic, Alex, share with us what led you into the business you are now.
So I've been doing art and graphic design for a very long time. I knew that I wanted to be on my own and have my own business, but I just didn't know how or when or what. But yeah, something after, working in corporate America for so many years, I just decided to start, and I'm so happy that I made the decision, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I advise everybody that has a dream to follow it. It is scary, but it's very rewarding at the same time. So I'm very happy that I did it.
Awesome. Fantastic. Excuse me. And what's the best advice you've ever received that relates to building a business or becoming an entrepreneur?
So when I had decided to start my business, I started reaching out to a lot of friends that had, businesses that were entrepreneurs themselves, CEOs, or people that work for large corporations. And one of my friends actually mentioned to me, which it stuck till this day. He goes, if you're going to start a business, make sure that you love what you're going to do, because it's something that you're going to be doing 24/7 for a very long time. So that's my first word of advice to everybody. Don't do it for the money. Don't do it just because you get to work from home or have your hours. Do it because you love what you're going to do. And that's the only way you're going to be happy and have a successful business.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. When you love what you do what you love. It doesn't really feel like work. It's just awesome.
Like podcasting?
Yeah,
exactly. It's really fun. So, and one final question again, before we jump into your topic is, what's something that you had to overcome to be where you are in business today?
Overcoming. So like I said, I never went to school for business or sales. But working in for some of South Florida's biggest companies, I always paid attention and try to learn as much. It wasn't just a 9-to-5 job. I try to grasp and learn from my bosses, from company, the environment. So I try to bring that into my business and make it better. Obviously, being on your own and sometimes not having a partner or support is challenging. And I'm still learning till this day, but a lot of research, asking, reading, trial and error. Finding the right people to work for you is very important. It's going to make either your work very challenging or it's going to be very rewarding. So finding the right people to work for you is very important, at least I found. So yeah, pretty much those were the challenges. But you learn every day and you get better. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great. So. Great advice.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into your topic.
Sure.
So I know you have some specific key factors to logo design. So what would be the key factor number one that you would want to share with our audience?
So I think we'll start with, I would suggest somebody's starting their own practice, private practice, to research other industry logos. What are other people doing?
So in the same industry or outside the industry as well?
You can do in the same industry, I think, because that's going to relate better to your audience. Obviously, if maybe you're a therapist only for, let's just say, children only or couples, then obviously this is live variation. But there's kind of sometimes like industry standards, things, that you want to show or not show. So I think doing a good research, and you want to stand out amongst the competition as well. So you want to do a good job by doing that, not imitating somebody else either. So it's good to do your research first.
So we talk about doing market research in a lot of other areas as well.
Exactly.
And so just doing your research, looking at what the other private practice is.
Doing your homework.
Yes.
It's very important with life in general, with anything. So, and especially with logos, because your logo is going to be your identity of your business, of who you are. So it's really good to see what others are doing, what you think is going to work for you, what you think is not going to work for you. So yeah, that's very important.
And people are visual. When they're looking at who they're going to see, your picture, your logo, there's going to be the visual components that they're going to see. And people make assumptions about that. Either they're going to connect or it's going to disconnect.
Exactly. Right. Or it might make them remember something else or, an existing logo from somebody else. So you want to make sure that you stand out, but you still are going to stay within the industry, that it fits your industry. So that's one. Another important thing to remember is what kind of message are you going to try to convey with your logo? What are the key points, main key points? You want to show just the name because maybe your name pretty much explains what you do or what you are. Is it an icon that you want to relay because maybe it's family and you want to maybe a family holding hands? So those are like very important things that you want to write down. And then those are the things that you're going to have to convey to the designer that you ended up hiring or the agency that you ended up hiring. So that's very important. Another thing to consider that a lot of people don't look into is the cost. People tend to have the misconception that logos are cheap. And actually, to be honest, logos are the one thing that you want to make the most investment on. And the reason why is because obviously you can change your logo, but people identify a product, a service, a person with the identity. So the logo, think of, Facebook is a simple, just text. And to the point that now just the F with the blue, it's very noticeable and everybody knows, right? And it looks simple. It looks like, you would pay $50 and okay, there's my F. But no, there's a lot of...
that just sounded funny. I'm sorry.
But it's true. Like it's true. And people think that, unfortunately, the challenge we have as designers, as an agency, is translating what the client, you as the private practice owner, is thinking into paper, into a cohesive design that is going to translate well to your industry and to your business. So now you have two key factors. You have the person requesting having an idea in their head, and then you have the person that needs to put it into production and into paper. So it's a lot of going back and forth, a lot of thought through about, is it going to work small? Is it going to work bigger? Is it going to work better if it's just text? Is it going to work better with an icon? Is it going to work in black and white? So it's not just plopping an image and plopping, and it sounds easy. And sometimes it's hard to, justify to the client from us, like, well, it costs this much because of this. But unfortunately, that is the truth. And it's the hardest thing to do, to be honest, is logo design. It's not as easy as people think.
I can remember when I was working with you and, we had our back and forths and you were so patient and creative throughout the process. And I remember thinking as I was trying to figure out what my logo was going to be, because I really didn't know from the start, but I knew that I wanted to have clients experience a sense of hope and that I was going to be guiding them towards, a certain direction, and that maybe they were going through dark times, so they're looking for that light. So my logo is a lighthouse, and, we worked back and forth on many different types and what that was going to look like. And then the waves represent change. So there's just so many different meanings that go into creating a logo that you really like, but you also want to think about who is your ideal client and are they going to be connecting with the message that you want them to connect with?
Right. So Kay brought up a good point, which is she knew exactly, like I mentioned before, about what are the key points that you're trying to convey in your logo. And, she mentioned when she was creating her logo, she wanted the light and the hope, and the waves. So she kind of already had that in her head. So that was very helpful for us now to identify what are the best other symbols or text or colors, that represent that. Mm-hmm. So, and on to my next point based on that.
Do you mind before you go to the next point? I just had a thought. So as we're talking, and maybe this is just my systemic brain working. So this is like a 3-layer process, right? So you have the graphic designer trying to communicate something that the client wants, right? The therapist, which the therapist is trying to connect with their ideal client of what they're experiencing. So you have like 3 layers of people assuring that you're trying to hit the right one. Yeah. Make it all kind of come together. It's really interesting.
It is quite complex. And you really want to think about what is the emotion that you want to connect with within your ideal clients?
Correct.
What is going to draw them to you? Are you choosing the colors that are going to draw them to you? Are you choosing colors that are going to be off-putting? to them. For me, I remember choosing, I love greens and blues, and you guys know that.
Shocking.
I know, right? We're sitting in my office right now, and for those of you who are listening, you can't see, but I have a big wave with like teal and blue and
and never mind K2 logos and the private practice startup logo. They have teals and blues in them.
Yes, they do. Yeah, but just thinking about blue is a very calming, tranquil color, so that was something I knew I wanted to include. So, there's just so many different things you have to think about when communicating to a graphic designer what it is that you want. It is quite the complicated.
And the other thing too is graphic designers are not in our industry. Mm-hmm. So they really have to kind of put on the hat of a therapist to try to convey what it is that they're really looking
Right. So
for.
that's what the designer does. The designer puts on the hat of, okay, in this industry, because you can come and tell us, oh, I like a flower. Oh, I like a wave. Mm-hmm. Okay, but...
Or a butterfly or whatever.
Right. So we do our research as well. Even though the client comes and says, I want these colors, or I want that, we also do our own research to make sure that we're kind of in line and we're going, with our industry and that matches the industry, and we're not going to do something crazy. So there's a lot of homework on our end too.
Great. So before we get onto the third one, we just want to take a break for our sponsor. If technology overwhelm has kept you from building an effective website and filling your calendar with the clients you absolutely love, now's your chance to do something about it. Daniel Fava is a website and WordPress expert whose passion is to help psychotherapists create websites that attract more of their ideal clients. After seeing how the website he built for his wife's counseling practice helped fill her calendar with clients, he began sharing his 15 plus years of online marketing and web design experience to help others do the same.
Daniel currently offers an online course where he'll hold your hand step by step through the entire process of creating a website, helping you avoid the overwhelm and frustration and get back to doing what you love, seeing more clients. To learn more about the online course, Create My Therapist Website Toolbox, visit createmytherapistwebsite.com/The Private Practice Startup. In our work with Daniel, as he's been working on our website for the Private Practice Startup, he's been extremely collaborative, responsive, timely, knowledgeable, and so easy to work with. Katie, I'm curious, what was your experience of coming up with a logo design?
Okay, wow. So all the different various ones?
Yeah.
Okay, so first, like Kate and I have our 10 biggest mistakes therapists make getting into private practice. So one, I kind of did, when you don't know, you just kind of jump in and do whatever you're trying to do. So I used Vistaprint, which I love Vistaprint as a company, and they have some, templates for cards and stuff like that. So I chose a generic one. And then I just noticed other people started having that card. And it was kind of like, well, that really doesn't stand out. I think, so I knew I wanted something else. And the colors were horrendous. They were like oranges, brown, just totally not me, because we know I love purple. And so my next experience with creating logos, I actually went through a branding process, which was super duper amazing. Actually, I created a brand that I hadn't actually lived into and used, but it was a really cool process, and it was very feeling based. It was all very intuitively feeling based, and from what we had created as they created the design, the brand is actually called Brainbox, and it's really super cool. It's clean, it's modern. And then our process through going through K2 Visionaries and the private practice startup, that was cool. When we had discussed about the private practice startup, I know that you had suggested, let's do green first, like wealth, abundance. Yeah. And then we started seeing what green looked like on logos. And we were like, ick.
Yeah. We got the ick factor. It just was not working.
Right. And then we had this really cool designer do the logo that we have now. And it just really felt good. It felt like pristine. It just felt clean. It really conveyed what we wanted to share.
Yeah.
Right. So back to what you said earlier about using Vistaprint, and back to what I said earlier about the cost of logo, we understand that, new practice owners or entrepreneurs, budgets are huge.
Absolutely.
And I know I mentioned, logos are important and there should be the good investment. Obviously, some big branding agencies would charge you starting off at $4,000 for a logo. But so with that said, we understand that's, a lot of these clients or a lot of you listeners listening right now may not have that kind of budget. If you do, amazing. But if you don't, make sure that you look for an agency, that's not going to charge you, $100 or $50, because most likely what happened here was that you're going to find, 20 other people having the exact same logo as you.
You get what you pay for.
Exactly. So find something moderate. Look at what other logos they've designed. Look at testimonials or people that, they've done work for, and kind of go with that. Something middle ground, and that will work best. So
yes, I know you designed my logo, which you guys can see at babytherapy.com.
Yep.
You designed Eva's at
Shout out to Eva Brown.
Yeah.
coupleseekingsolutions.com. And then
Serenity.
Yep, Serenity Psychological Services. So,
yep.
yeah.
So you can see some of Alex's work is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yep,
Yeah,
you can see that. So I guess now to my last tip. I guess communicating to the agency or the designer, what to put on paper. And like Kate said earlier about the colors and what she wanted to convey, it's very important because you don't want to get stuck on just, I want this font, I want this color. Explain the feeling, explain your services, explain what you want your audience to captivate from that. And then from that, after, the research that you've done, say, look, these are the fonts that are being used. I kind of like the more moderate look. I like, something more classic. And at that point, let the designer, give you some font options. Don't get stuck on, if you like something, I prefer this direction. But then at the same time, let the designer give you options. You don't want to just get stuck because sometimes, a font could look great, for example, and then you really like it. But maybe when down the road, you need to minimize it to 20% size because it's going to go in like a tiny little ad or it's going to go, in black and white. Maybe that font may disappear or may not look very good.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking, how Facebook posts things like from a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. So recently, like the other day on Facebook, I got a picture that I had posted. So last year we had painted our entire inside of our house and we really thought we wanted to go with like a teal color. I think we bought 12 colors. So the picture is just
stripes. It's stripes.
And you're right, because you think this is what I want, but until you really get it down, you don't know. So be open is what I hear you saying. Be flexible. Don't be so rigid.
Exactly.
Is really important.
Yeah, be flexible. As long as the designer and the agency has enough information. Obviously, if you see the designer or the agency go completely off the wall, then there's a communication issue and maybe you need to revisit or maybe they're just not the good fit for you. But as long as you have enough information, remember, they're not in your head. They don't know what you're visualizing. They're just going to translate whatever you've sent, whatever you've discussed. So just make sure that you have good communication with them, that you have a lot of key points, that you have a lot of information, give them a lot of feedback about your business, about who you are, because they need to get to know you.
It's really good to do some foundational work on your brand as well.
Yep.
So you know exactly what to convey to a graphic design artist because, we talk about getting clear on your vision, your mission, your culture, and really working on that foundational piece of your brand so you can really convey to your graphic design artist exactly what it is that you want to create that's going to be a good fit and attract your ideal clients.
And that's why we're crazy talking about branding, vision, mission, culture, because everything is born through there.
It really is. And if you guys need some additional support with that, we have an awesome webinar on our online courses on our website, theprivatepracticestartup.com. So we'll make sure to include
under the
that
store tab. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll include the link on our show notes page as well for that, as well as some of the other resources we're sharing in today's podcast.
Yeah. So did you want to share some big mistakes that people make?
Big mistakes. Yes.
What not to do.
What not to do. Yes. So clip art. Don't use clip art. Or if you see the designer using clip art,
run for the hills. On the spot. You're fired.
Yes. Yeah, that's just the main thing. Be true to the colors. If you like a color, let's just say bright pink, and you're a therapist, maybe that's not necessarily going to work.
If you're working with men and women, definitely not.
Right. Exactly. So perfect. Yeah. So just be very conscious about those kind of things. You may like something, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for your practice or for your logo. Remember, your identity, your logo is going to identify who you are. So it's going to be with you for a long time. It's going to identify your business. So try to stay away from, I understand budgets, but try to stay away from the Groupon's $50 logo, not because I have an agency. It's just because I feel bad. I've seen so many, startups come back and say, oh my God, I went through so many revisions. I got this, freelancer or a Groupon or online and I paid this much and now they want to charge me 3 times because I went over, just do your research. Don't go with the first person you meet. Find different designers, find different options, compare pricing.
Do your research.
Yeah, it's important, and just be conscious of what you're trying to communicate. Again, if you decide to get clipboard and do it yourself, most likely people will notice that, and that's probably going to affect you a little bit. You don't have to spend a ton of money, but do know that you will have to spend, invest a little, because this will be, this will show everybody else, your audience, your industry, who you are, and you want it to be the best. Kind of like, what do they say? First impressions are everything, you know? So, I mean,
you don't get a second chance to do a first impression.
Right. Exactly. Go. Right. So that's...
These are great tips and really helpful to have you here today. And I'm just curious, is what do you want to make sure that our audience gets from your message today? Like the key point.
The main
takeaway.
Yeah. Just be clear what you want to convey. Don't just get stuck on one idea. Be very clear. Do your research and be very clear, and clarity meaning not just conveying to the designer who's going to create it or the agency, and being clear to the audience, your audience that you're going to captivate, like your future clients, your future prospects. Be clear on the message that you're trying to give them.
Great. And one thing you said is really get clear on what your end game is and how you're going to use the logo. Are you going to put it on T-shirts? Are you going to put it on a huge sign? Are you going to have workshops with binders? It's really important to figure out where you're going. And of course, that probably starts with vision, mission, culture, and branding. Just saying.
Yeah, we actually just did a branding webinar earlier this week with Claudia Zerbisky. Every time I try and say her last
name. Is that what you're trying to say? There you go.
Yes. Every time I say it the wrong way. But anyways, it was really cool. It was all about captivating your ideal clients.
Yep.
And so that's on our online store as well. If you guys want to check that out, just put it out there.
Yeah.
And so I know that you also have a giveaway for our audience, Alex. What is that?
Yeah. So today I'm offering 10% off on any service 500 and up. So I guess you can contact me or visit our website, otenaconcepts.com, OTENA concepts.com. Or you can email info@otenaconcepts.com. You can request me, Alexandra Neto, or just Alex.
And I'll let them know that you heard it from the Private Practice Startup.
Yes, exactly. And once you make sure that you mention them to be able to get the 10% off.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, we just wanted to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to another great episode of the Private Practice Startup Nation. We appreciate your loyalty. Don't forget to check out the show notes page for all the tips, resources, and links from today's show. We thank you for listening, value your input, so please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget to share with your friends and fellow colleagues. And don't forget the bonuses we offered you guys in the beginning of the podcast. So everybody have a great day, weekend, night, evening, morning, whatever's happening for you. We will check you at the next episode. Thanks for joining.
See you later, Startup Nation. Thanks for joining us on the Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.